Welcome back to Bannerlord Abridged, where last time we did some more of the mercenary battles and eventually realised this was kind of pointless, so I went off camera and basically got a bunch of money, allowing me to buy up loads of businesses and a caravan, so we now have a passive income and can stop fussing over money. Then I went and joined the Khuzait faction, so it's time to get really started with this game. Now we're going to be doing something similar to the mercenary work, fighting in big battles. But now we don't need to worry so much about getting money, and winning battles actually progresses the game, so it's a bit more worthwhile. We have a slightly different focus for battles, because the plan isn't just to get like stats for ourselves, we want our side to actually do well. So we need to start considering doing tactics and whether or not we're going to follow the orders of the commander. And right here, in this little battle, things are going to be fine. We're doing some serious horse archery, and you can see that now I've got this fast horse, which I mentioned last time. We are speeding about, meaning the enemy just can't catch us. We can probably dodge their shots if they're firing at us. And when we do make melee attacks, they do extra damage because the speed of your horse gets added onto the damage. I'm still using a pretty terrible spear, but one day, if I rectify that, I think we can get to the point when we can kill most generic enemies in one hit. For now though, this battle is done. I thought I should mention what's going on in general. So we're at war with the Southern Empire, I think it is, the Blue Empire faction. There are several factions that are kind of the same thing, all just called the Empire. And we're at war with the one that's next to the Khuzait faction. We are right now with the army chasing down an enemy army that's currently going for one of our cities, or one of the cities we've taken from them, I think it is. We'll see that again in a second. And for this battle, it's skirmishing time, and with the horse archers we're just going to move up towards the enemy blob and then stand here. My thought was I'll just wait around and let the AI horse archers pepper the enemy, but they're not especially good at doing this. I've noticed if you just stand near the enemy with your archers, they tend not to fire. I think it's something to do with moving targets. They'll tend to fire a lot at things that are standing still, but if the enemy formation moves, then they'll just stop firing and wait around for a while. So not quite sure why that is. Maybe it's trying to save ammo against moving targets or something because it thinks it can't hit them. I think you have to give attack orders basically to really make your horse archers actually start riding around and attack properly, and for that you need to give the charge order. But in this case I didn't want to say charge because I thought they might start engaging in melee since we're already kind of in the enemy formation thanks to my very brazen maneuvers here. And my brazen maneuvers do get me unhorsed. I mentioned last time I was going to try and stop charging into the middle of the enemy formation to stop this from happening, and clearly I didn't, and it happened again. So we need to run away because we suck in melee, but we can still try and snipe away with some foot bowmanship. The issue is, if anyone actually tries to attack us, we're immediately in big trouble. I get away with it here because the enemy that was about to kill me walks off to do something else. So I leg it back up onto this hill behind the enemy formation, and I thought, well, this is pretty good actually. We've got the enemy surrounded. Then I realized, wait a minute, they're actually regrouping, but on the hill that I'm trying to regroup on, so we're about to be surrounded by the enemy. Given that, we're going to run away some more, and I'm going to pull the horse archers to be close to me, both for a selfish reason, so that they're a meat shield in front of me and these enemy cav don't kill me, and because it would be strategically good to gather up the horse archers behind where the enemy are gathering. Now I didn't really see much of the rest of the battle, because by the time I went back over the hill to see what was happening, we had won basically, so I went around, took out a couple of stragglers, and there we go, victory in battle. We've secured this place, Anira. I'm pretty sure that's a city we've stolen from the Southern Empire, so we're winning the war, I guess, so far. We're a bit more advanced in terms of territory than where Khuzait were at the start of the campaign, so I think things are going well. And the next thing that happened is another army came to attack the same city, so our army, now a bit bigger, comes back. It's time for the same battle we just saw, but with even more troops involved. Like before, I took horse archers to do some skirmishing, but this time I went up the left end of the battlefield rather than the right end, which I did before. And I think the difference there is that the AI tends to put its cavalry on its right. So instead of just outflanking the enemy blob, we end up running into their cav and getting involved in this very awkward fight where all our horse archers are kind of standing about, not really sure what to do, and I'm just letting them get hit to make the enemies stop so I can snipe them at point blank range. So yes, not a very good melee, but I was enjoying myself at least. Eventually I did think this isn't going very well because we took down the first group of cav that came in, but the enemy then reinforced and another group of cav was coming over. You can see them in the background there. Plus, they started sending some foot archers towards us as well. You can see them coming over the ridge just to my left and raining arrows on our formation. So now really is the time to get out of here. The main fight's going on elsewhere and it's already half done, so we're not really seeing much of the actual battle going on here. We're just fighting our own thing off on the edge. So I'm going to pull back to our side of the battlefield, and this means the enemy cav follow me and the enemy foot archers follow me more slowly. So we now have a bit of time where we can fight the enemy cav on their own and get a bit more of this awkward melee going, which is kind of working. We are actually gradually killing them in this fashion, probably just because we have numbers on our side. And then the foot archers arrive as well, and because they're on their own, with many of the cav now down, we can actually just go after them, and the disadvantage horse archers face against foot archers goes away when you just charge at them. There's the main fight, or the last dregs of it, going on just next to me there, so we did make it back into the action eventually. And I noticed that in the main fight, the enemy had turned around and run, so now it was time for me to charge forwards and grab some rout kills. They're not completely helpless while they're routing, they are turning around to try and challenge me, and this causes some enemy somewhere to hit my horse, and once again we face the situation. Now I'm out on my own in the middle of the enemy. Luckily they are busy enough withdrawing from the battlefield, so we don't need to worry about being stuck here, plus the rest of our cav soon catch up, and we turn this thing into a big win. Looks like the enemy lost more than twice the stuff that we lost, and now that place, Anira, is almost certainly going to be secure. I think we've actually made some forward progress, and while the Southern Empire's armies are dead, we might be able to make some more as well, although they don't stay dead for long. The enemy armies respawn pretty fast actually, just a few in-game days will pass until we see those guys again. The army I was in disbanded due to lack of cohesion. Basically the armies kind of go away after a while, but you can just immediately make another one, and someone does. And while we're setting up for the next move, we have this decision come through. This is how we can theoretically get territory. Sometimes the AI will vote to give you some territory. Well, I say vote, it's kind of presented like a vote here. And in this case, the majority actually want to give me some castle we've captured somewhere. However, that's not quite how it works. I'm not sure what the point of this is, but basically you can vote to try and give your support to a certain person, but then the decision is made separately. So in this case, the faction leader very wisely decides to give it to himself. What do you know? So we don't get this castle, but it's good to see we actually have some support among the other nobles. They're willing to give us something, perhaps knowing we don't have any fiefs and that we are kind of helping, we're participating. So that's that anyway. This little army I'm in ends up being attacked by this really brazen group of Southern Empire troops. They come at us with 70 men and actively pursue us to force this really easy battle on us. They just get swarmed out there somewhere in amongst our troops. So just time to look for guys running away, ride right up to them so we can almost certainly hit them, and then get some bow experience. Our own troops are getting in the way. But you know, I don't mind shooting my own troops that much, although some of them are actually my party now, so it's nice to keep them alive. Anyway, after that win, we move north, passing an enemy city, and then we move on to a castle. This looks okay. There are 150 defenders, we've got 350 attackers. Doable. However, before we make the attack, some 550 enemies show up and attack us, so we end up facing a difficult looking field battle. I again go out on the left with the horse archers, and we encounter the enemy's horse archers. They are above us, annoyingly. There's this big hill on the side of the map. We're kind of in a valley, and we're moving up the valley, as you can see behind me there, in a massive, thinly spread line. An ideal formation for the enemy's cav to attack, and they are doing just that over here. So now I thought I'll try and take them down. I don't know if I don't do it, will the AI general send the melee cav to do it instead? Not sure how it works. So we dance around, trying to shoot people at point blank range basically, but then I noticed I've inadvertently ended up behind the enemy's main melee blob because the two sides span around a bit in the valley. So that was good. Started shooting into the back of the enemy, but we do need to pay a bit of attention because we're still being slammed by the enemy's heavy cav. Not ideal for our horse archer detachment. I'm sure we have a melee cav detachment somewhere, but I don't see it, not sure where they've gone off to. Anyway, you can see that our army is actually in trouble. It's been split into several groups somehow by the enemy's charge. Their charge went right up the middle, and our guys have just kind of phased away. I think our general was trying to pull all the troops up the hill on the other side of the map, and you can see them here disappearing into the forest with the enemy in pursuit. It's kind of hard to see the enemy because it's a very dark battle. In fact, I can't see it at all as I say this because it's very sunny in this room. But somewhere in front of me, I'm managing to hit some enemies, so we're being pushed up a hill. It doesn't look that bad. We're getting plenty of kills on that thing on the right. But actually the formation situation is very poor. Plus, the enemy actually have double our numbers on the field now. We are losing more men than they are, which is not what we need considering these starting ratios. So we're getting more and more screwed. I did just hang out here shooting into the backs of enemies, but on my left, enemy reinforcements are pouring in. They've totally occupied the valley area. So now we're going to be stuck between the enemy's already engaged troops and their reinforcements. And our troops just didn't do very well, I suppose. I'm guessing the different factions have different strengths and weaknesses, and fighting melee infantry blobs is probably our faction's main weakness, so I'm guessing their spam just overcame our spam, even with the fact that our spam takes only 2/3 damage. After realising we were about to be taken out by all these loosely spaced foot archers, I decided to do a glorious charge, which proved to be not particularly glorious as I just get slammed off my horse. The idea was there, but yes, now you can see the enemy have like 10 times more stuff on the bounce bar at the top than we do. So I'm pretty sure the battle in the forest that I didn't really see was just a complete defeat for us. We got screwed over. Then we lose the valley as well as our horse archers gradually get shot down, and that's the end of the fight. We killed more than half of them, but that's no use to anyone really because they'll just come back. So we are now captured once again, but it's not like it's the end of the game like it is earlier. We're not being sent back really far as a result of losing a battle because we keep our businesses and our income. So we can very quickly after this not only buy our way back to freedom as I do there, but buy our way back to kind of where we were before. If you have tons of money, you can very quickly raise a small party again. And of course we can get all of the food and stuff we need right away as well. One thing that actually hampers that is they did take all of our mules, so I've lost my inventory capacity. So we need to find a city, buy mules, then buy a bunch of food, get some recruits along the way, and after a couple of in-game days we can get back to being able to move around the map without being in a state where we're so weak that looters can kill us or something. That's all we really need, then we can go back and find another army. And of course, because I'm a nice person, we can cut that out. But I will show you this. I stopped to take a look at the overall world map situation. So here we are zoomed out. We're along the right end of the map with our green faction, and the places where the names are highlighted in red are the places we're currently at war with. So we're at war with the Southern Empire, this Romany faction, and with the Arabian faction down at the bottom of the map. Probably would be better if we were only at war with one enemy at a time so we could focus in, but that's why we're here. We're going to try and win anyway. Our heroic contribution to the war doesn't go very well actually, because while going to go find the army, I walked into a bigger enemy force, probably while not looking at the screen or something. And now I was in trouble, but you can negotiate to get them to not kill you. The advantage is, I would then not have to go back and re-recruit the guys I just re-recruited and re-get the mules and stuff, so I save having to do the same thing again. I lose 8,000 gold, but that doesn't matter that much anymore. However, the main thing is I'm now in a kind of personal peace treaty with the Southern Empire, so I can't do anything against them for 10 days. That means when I do go find the army, which was nearby actually, doing this siege, I both can't join the army officially, and I can't participate in any fights that it does. So I just waited around, and by the time the 10 days were up, they had almost taken the castle. They were in the middle of attacking it, and there were like 3 enemies left. So I jumped into the battle thinking I'll still get some influence and renown or something if I just pop in and then we instantly win. But this was a massive mistake because everything just glitched out and our guys stopped attacking. All of our men are just kind of wandering around. They're stuck at the back, stuck on those cliffs there. Our ram did go and open one of the gates, but our men won't attack the second gate. Here's me at the second gate, because this is the only thing we can do to actually get out of this without technically retreating or something. I need to kill the last 3 enemies. That means I need to open this gate ideally. But also, as we just saw, sometimes enemies come to drop rocks on you as you stand next to this gate. So that's a chance to kill them. I've been trying to get my troops into this gateway to attack, but for whatever reason, they're not doing the thing where it melee attacks the gate to open it up, which the AI normally does. So yeah, we just glitched out big time basically. Maybe because there were so few enemies around, it just doesn't work or something. Another guy has appeared to drop rocks, and boom, we get the kills. We're getting tons of damage here. I think I'm somehow getting inadvertent headshots by shooting through the rocks or something. We stand around for a while, continue not opening the gate. Luckily another guy comes over, we kill that guy, and that actually ends the battle for us. So we got away with that in the end, cutting out the very long time this actually took mercifully. Pretty bad. After the castle was taken, I went to go get some more troops and stuff from back in the Khuzait's secure home territories, and on the way back to the front, spotted an ally in need. One of our fellow lady parties is nearly dead fighting a small enemy party, so we can swoop in to save the day here. This battle should be pretty easy, just need to send in the peasant spam to do the fighting. I'm even using a lot of Imperial troops rather than Khuzait troops. Partially because they're just easier to recruit near the front lines, because we occupy some Imperial territory, and also because I suspect they're going to be better in melee once they've leveled up, because their faction specialises in it more or something. Don't actually know. After the fight I was disappointed because Janna here is saying, well, we're the best of friends, but apparently we're not according to the game. You don't seem to get relations or anything by saving her life, and the dialogue implies that you do, which makes me think it's a glitch or an oversight or something. I don't know. So nothing happened basically, that's the usual takeaway. Although we did get this prisoner, that's going to get us a couple of grand in ransom. Next I went back towards that Onira place, for no particular reason or no reason that I remember. And on the way we saw a nearby village being attacked by an enemy party that is about the same size as my party, so I thought let's take these guys on. I think you might get some peasants on your side as well or something, giving us a bit of an advantage in the end. Didn't do anything special for this one, just sat there and let the boys do their thing. Meanwhile the enemy's calves barreling on through and I'm just trying to snipe away. We're not going to try and dodge their attacks, and the enemy are quite polite, so they don't attack me either. Even once they're actually behind me like right now, they just run off and do their own thing. Yeah, looks like the enemy's morale is breaking. I didn't really bother pursuing them because I didn't care that much. But a nice thing about taking on these enemy parties in kind of real battles is you get a lot more renown and influence for winning them. Plus, you get better loot because you're actually getting the full share of it. Good stuff. Looks like a ton of prisoners as well, more than I can actually take on. Need to recruit that guy to help out with that. Anyway, once that business was done with, I went down to Onira and found it's actually under attack right now. Or is it? My arrival prompts the enemy to sue for peace by the looks of things. They don't dare face me. So yes, we suddenly end our war with the Blue Empire faction. We're now just at war with the Yellow Desert Kingdom faction instead. So no castle for us so far, but we're still at war, so let's keep pushing that front line and maybe the faction leader will be nice to us. I join up with an army, and this army goes to a city which I think we've already taken off the Desert Kingdom-y kingdom. Looks like we were about to lose it back to them, but our arrival triggers this battle outside the city. If we can win this, I guess we'll hold on to this territory. I started off kind of staying with the army as it pushed up, but the enemy cav came and attacked us, so I still ended up in a similar situation to the last couple of battles, kind of grappling with cav and not willing to pull out a melee weapon. Eventually there we move up on the left of the main blob as the enemy main blob comes into view, and now it's time for some good old-fashioned skirmishing. I'm not sure if it's the same, but I feel like in this game there's a similar advantage to something you can get in Total War, where being on the enemy's right is better than being on their left because you're less likely to attack the enemy's shield if you shoot into them. So the logic is there, but once the blobs start fighting, I'm pretty sure that goes out the window and it doesn't matter because everyone's just facing every which way direction all the time. So yes, the fight degenerates into a mass melee, no formations here, and I feel like we're helping a bit here being on the flank, not only because we are sniping some enemies down, but it's kind of distracting the enemies. Some of them are coming over here, which could be bad for us. We're being attacked by quite a few spears. It seems I started to realize they are actually kind of surrounding us. I think it's not as bad as it looks because many of the enemies are just retreating, but in the direction of our line of advance. So it looked like they were trying to get behind us, but no, they were trying to get away. I end up wheeling around to be behind our main blob, but the main blob is kind of dead at this point. The two sides are just grinding each other into the dirt, and I'm trying to help out, but I'm pretty sure we're being defeated. Our troops start looking like they're falling back. They might just be going backwards because our reinforcements are spawning and the AI is trying to gather them somewhere. It's one of these little quirks of Mount & Blade. That was true in the old one as well. where an army with say 500 troops is technically weaker than one with like 650, because a 650 army will be split and halfway through the battle it will retreat to try and meet up with its reinforcements as they come onto the field, and as it retreats they're going to be slammed by arrows and cav and lose a whole bunch of troops. So if you're just like at the battle limit of 500, it's a bit better. Well, I think it's 500 for both sides, so 250 on each side is like the optimal amount. Taking that into account, maybe, I don't know what I'm talking about. Back to the battle. I swung around to the enemy's rear this time and started smashing away, but not doing all that much. They do have tons of spears and we have lots of not melee cav. I'm using them as if they were melee cav. Looks like I don't care about that. We are though going to be stuck between the enemy's main position and their reinforcements. It looks like I made an attempt to escape, but of course got cut down in the process when my horse got cut down. Now our general actually does tell me to withdraw, so I started giving my men orders to just run off somewhere else. Then there was this convenient horse just standing around, so we're back mounted again and we can get out of here too. We're losing a lot of men as our troops fall back, the thing I was ranting about just now. But at least we're going to win this battle on numbers at this point, because you can see in the background there, we have loads of troops around, we're just not all together, so the fight's going really badly, but we're going to win in the end, and that's about the best we can expect. Here we are at the end, once the last few enemies start to withdraw, and now I'm desperate to pick up one polearm kill on this guy, but it's not happening. My ability to hit enemies, even when they're completely vulnerable, is surprising. So here's the result. It was a Pyrrhic victory, I'd say. We lost virtually everything in order to defeat the enemy army. Pretty nasty. However, right after that, another allied army came along, so while the army I was in probably won't achieve anything, I can supply up and then switch over to this new army, and that army is feeling more ambitious. They're going on the warpath deep into enemy territory. We walked right past the first enemy city, and went into this valley in order to attack the second enemy city. I think the AI or RAI might have smelled that this place wasn't as heavily garrisoned as the other place, because there's only about 100 troops inside, not very much for a city. So we lay siege, and this is actually looking pretty good, but I broke what I think is the secret golden rule of being in an army. Always have your mouse over the leave army button at all times, because things like this happen. You look away for 2 seconds, suddenly your army's fighting 1,000 enemies, and it's big trouble. So we're going to have to fight this battle basically, nothing else we can do. We can still betray the army I think at this point, but there's probably some penalty. Now in this fight, we're in this narrow valley, which makes it particularly bad for horse archery stuff. We're going to do it anyway, but it's just not going to work. Not that it was doing all that much before, to be fair. So yes, this massive blob of enemies is just advancing towards us. We can shoot vaguely in their direction and probably hit something, that's good. And now our blob will run into their blob and we'll see what happens. What appears to be happening is their blob's a lot bigger than ours and our guys are just running away pretty fast, so yeah, not happening. The good thing though is that this enemy build, I guess, doesn't have many archers among it. It's almost all spearmen and most of them don't have shields. So it is actually pretty vulnerable to me just standing here and plucking away. There's not much they can do if I don't get cheeky and go in close for melee attacks, which I absolutely will. But look at this, the idea is certainly there. And they're advancing at a snail's pace. I think they might be doing some sort of shield wall formation but with no shields. And that allows our men to kind of escape. Looks like they're regrouping on some cliffs at the back. Not a bad move at all. I actually had to stop sniping the enemy at point blank range because some enemy cav reinforcements appeared, so I ended up dancing about with them. And then I just did that. I rode absent-mindedly into a bunch of outstretched spears just for my own amusement. I guess I thought I would get through them. I feel like this is more of the old Mountain Blade logic coming through, where you can just sort of pile through the enemy and they might not hit you. So yes, now we're without horse, but this guy over here is with horse, and you can kind of stab up over the horse by pushing the mouse up as you attack. As a result, we do get another horse and get away with this. The first thing I did with this horse is actually get shot by some arrows or something, run away and start looking for other horses. Found this one, but it's also almost dead. We're on the cliffs above the battle and the main blobs are engaging again down there. Not sure how well that's going, probably pretty badly, but as it stands I'm just like, well, as long as I get a good horse, I don't mind what happens apparently. We get a horse with some health. Now let's go see how things are going. Well, it's an absolute mess. The enemies still have us vastly outnumbered, I'm not quite sure how they achieved it, but we've managed to get completely surrounded. Our main blob is now in between two enemy blobs. I think what happened is the two formations rotated around each other, then the enemy got a blob of reinforcements spawning. So yeah, now we're pretty much screwed. I'm going to be screwed too if I stay where I am now, so I'm going to get out of the enemy's reinforcement path. But yes, our army is going down by the looks of things. Unfortunately, we're not going to sneak a win out of this one. All I can do then is entertain myself sniping away at the odd enemy, because they're still distracted by like our surviving cav who are just marauding around and skirmishing same as me. We can pick off enemies from the edge of the formation and get all these extra kills, which ultimately doesn't amount to anything and is just for my own personal amusement. Here's what eventually happens. I tried to press retreat to actually survive the battle, but I can't retreat while the enemy's here apparently. Should have done that earlier, although I'm sure there's some kind of penalty for retreating while the battle's actually going on. And then eventually somebody murks me off that horse and we are out of here. Good stuff. The battle kind of went okay. We defeated about 3/4 of the enemy army. So while we lost, we've killed so many enemies that this might actually have a strategic effect in that they might not go and attack us, whereas they otherwise would have with this army still intact. So in a roundabout way, maybe we can say we've held on to some territory by just kind of ploughing into the enemy out here and weakening them. But I think this game has the same problem as Total War, where the results of field battles don't really matter, because as you can see right here, troops just come back so fast that you can have the most valiant defeat of all time. It just doesn't do anything. You might as well have just surrendered at the start, because you're going to end up in the same situation at the end. That's a gripe. Let's get out of here then. Looks like we're in trouble for the end of this part. We're now in the enemy's captivity, but as we saw earlier, once we can bribe our way out of this, we can bounce back and get back into the war. So maybe things will go a bit better next time, and maybe, most importantly, we'll get a castle of our own. The dream continues.